again, and welcome to part 2 of Basic Blues. So in the previous video, we discussed the 1-4-5 progression, we discussed the blues shuffle, and 12-bar blues, and how we had whatever key you're in, that's your 1 chord, and your 4 chord then is counted up 4 from that. So we use the example of A. A was 1, A, B, C, D was 4, A, B, C, D, E was 5. Okay? If we were in the key of C, for instance, C would be our 1, and then we'd count up C, D, E, F would be our 4, C, D, E, F, G would be our 5 chord. And then the sequence of the chords, we would have 4 measures or 4 bars of the 1 chord, 2 measures or 2 bars of the 4 chord, so we're up to 6, 2 more measures of the 1 chord, now we're up to 8, and then 1 each of the 5, the 4, the 1, and back to the 5, and that gets us 12, okay? Now, today I'm going to talk a little bit about tying in the blues scale, also sometimes called the pentatonic scale, with the blues progression. Now, we're going to stick with the key of A because it's just an easy key to conceptualize, and again we've got those open notes, open strings that help us with the chords. Now, the blues scale is kind of an altered pentatonic scale. Penta means 5, and your basic pentatonic scale is 5 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then it starts over again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then it starts over again here. 5. And then it starts over again there. In the blues scale, we add this extra note in between your 3rd and 4th note, okay? And that's sometimes called the blue note, all right? And it just gives a little extra something to the sound, and it's just used all the time, so. If you're taking lessons from me, you will have already been introduced to the scale. But just really quickly here, you can find it online. It's everywhere. Your first string provides the root note. Okay, so in this case, an A. A is on the 5th fret of our open E string. And we play A, C, or skipping 2 frets. D, D sharp, E. Okay, then G, and back to A. And then again, C, D, D sharp, E, G, and A again. Okay, now the cool thing about that scale is it all fits over an A blues progression. Even though we have A chords and D chords and E chords, this scale fits over the whole thing, sounds great. There's almost nothing you can do wrong other than getting out of rhythm to make this scale not work in the context of a blues progression. However, we can switch into other keys of the blues scale. All right, we could go, when the blues progression hits the D, we could switch and do a D scale. And there's 2 ways to do that. You can hop up to the 10th fret where your first note plays a D and play the same scale. Or we can simply change positions of the scale to where instead of starting here on your A, you're basically going to start here on your D and do the same scale. The only difference is when we get to this B string, we have to shift up a fret and then come back down. And then there's a couple extra notes here for the intro. Other than that little shift, it's exactly the same as our first position scale. We do this, and then we've got the 3 in a row, bum, bum, and then here we've got 2 in a row at the end of that string. So boom, 3 in a row, shift up, and we've got the 2 in a row, shift back down. Okay, now the key to this particular scale is I always base it on those first 5 notes. You start on your key note, go 2 frets away, and then you've got, or 3 frets away, then you've got that 3 in a row thing, okay? Now, that means that anywhere you've got an A on your fretboard, you can play that scale starting there. So for instance, this is our low A, but we've also got an A here. It's a higher A. And we play the same pattern. And we've also got a higher A here. Whoops. Okay. They're all over the place. There's an A here. Now the only difference here, when we're going from the 3rd to the 2nd string, we have to do that shift up 1 fret, and that's just because of the way a guitar is tuned in standard tuning. All right, but everywhere you've got an A, we can even use this open A. Okay, we've got A's everywhere. Whoops, I forgot to shift. And we can start one here, but then we run out of strings. So that is the key to being able to play a blues progression all over the fretboard. If you can find the opening key note, then you just you can do it anywhere. And you can kind of let it grow from that point on. Obviously, here you're going to end up with the biggest range. If you start it here, I mean, you run out of strings. You can compensate for that by sliding up, but in general, it's very simple just to find another A. And that makes it cool to do something like a repeated riff. So say we're going to do something like... hopefully a little better than that. And then finish it off with something different, because that's very common in soloing, not just in blues but in all different styles, is repeating a riff up an octave or down an octave. It just adds a little bit of interest and can build some excitement to that. So that's just a little bit about how the blues scale works, and we'll tackle that in a little bit more depth, as well as we will go on to talking about actual full chords that can accompany our blues shuffle. Okay, have a good one.